Ever imagine being right in the thick of it, like a political thriller playing out in real time? A place where history unfolds.
Where those big decisions get made.
Yeah, exactly. And where the debates can get pretty heated. Well, that's where our deep dive's taken us today.
Right into the U.S. House of Representatives.
The House might seem like just another, government building from the outside. But trust me, it's got a history that's...
Oh, it's anything but ordinary.
Yeah.
More like a Hollywood movie, really.
We're using Rachel A. Koestler-Grack's book as our guide today.
The House of Representatives, your government, how it works.
Right. So get ready to uncover the captivating and often really surprising story behind this cornerstone of
American democracy.
Okay, so first things first, let's rewind the clock. Back to March 1st, 1954. Just picture this.
Yeah.
The House is in session.
Representatives going about their business.
Yeah, and then, all of a sudden...
Gunshots.
Out of nowhere.
It was a chaotic scene. 4 Puerto Rican nationalists, led by Lolita Lebron, they stormed the House gallery.
Demanding independence for Puerto Rico.
Right, they opened fire.
5 representatives were injured.
Thankfully, they all recovered.
And in the aftermath, they obviously arrest the attackers. But it sparked a huge debate about security.
Yeah, they ended up passing a law to ban unauthorized weapons on Capitol grounds.
It's a stark reminder of how vulnerable, even the most secure-seeming places can be.
Absolutely. And it shows how strongly people can feel about their beliefs, sometimes driving them to extreme measures.
Okay, so now let's travel even further back in time.
At the very beginning.
The House's first meeting, 1789. New York City was the place to be. Everyone was super excited about George Washington's inauguration.
A new nation, a fresh start.
Except the House's debut wasn't exactly a smooth start.
Travel back then, not so easy.
No kidding. Only a handful of representatives made it on time. Took weeks for them to get enough people to officially start.
It happens.
But once they finally got going,
Right.
They didn't waste any time, They had a ton on their plate.
Setting up executive departments, getting the judicial system in order.
And most importantly,
the Bill of Rights.
Those first 10 amendments, they're a big deal. Safeguarding individual liberties, thanks in large part to James Madison.
The father of the Constitution.
Leading the charge. Those early sessions, even with all the chaos, laid the foundation for American democracy.
The eyes of the world were on them. Could this experiment in self-government actually work?
And of course, it wasn't all sunshine and roses.
Definitely not. Political factions started popping up.
Disagreements left and right. The seeds of our two-party system.
One of the big debates centered around Alexander Hamilton's plan to deal with the nation's war debt.
He wanted the federal government to take on state debts. Caused a major uproar, especially in the South.
They'd already paid off most of their debts, weren't thrilled about bailing out the North.
Created a financial tug-of-war.
North versus South.
Exposing all those underlying tensions and, differing economic interests. It gets pretty complex. It was about more than just money, though.
It was about fairness.
Right. Like James Madison argued that the people who originally held war bonds, a lot of them were struggling soldiers or their widows, deserved to be paid in full.
Not just the speculators who bought those bonds for cheap.
Not an easy situation. But amidst all that,
a compromise appeared on the horizon.
Orchestrated by none other than Thomas Jefferson.
In exchange for the South's support on the debt issue, the North agreed to locate the nation's capital in the South.
Right on the Potomac River. That's how Washington, D.C. was born. Classic political maneuvering.
Oh, absolutely.
But it shows how the House, even when things get heated, can find some common ground. Reminds us that compromises, even messy ones, are sometimes necessary to move forward.
Definitely. Yeah, those early compromises, they were really just a preview of what was to come.
Right. The House, it's constantly changing.
It's a battleground for ideas, really.
And sometimes those battles, they could really shake things up. Like, change the course of history. The election of 1800 is a perfect example.
Oh, yeah, that one was a nail-biter.
Imagine, a nation divided. The Federalists, with John Adams leading the way.
They wanted a strong central government, close ties with Great Britain.
And then you have the Democratic Republicans, with Thomas Jefferson at the helm.
More about states' rights, a simpler way of life.
The campaign was brutal. Just constant attacks, accusations flying back and forth.
Newspapers had a field day.
Sounds kind of familiar, right? Like, haven't we seen this before?
Well, some things never change. And in 1800, the election exposed a big problem with the Electoral College.
How so?
Back then, each elector got 2 votes, but they didn't have to say which one was for president and which one was for vice president.
Interesting. So how did that work out?
Well, the guy with the most votes became president, the runner-up got vice president, Worked fine until Jefferson and his running mate, Aaron Burr, tied.
Whoa, so the whole election came down to the House.
Yep, they had to break the tie.
I bet the tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife.
36 ballots, 7 days of voting, back and forth. The Federalists controlled the House, and they had to choose between two guys from the opposite party.
Talk about a tough spot. What happened behind the scenes?
Yeah.
Any political maneuvering?
You bet. Alexander Hamilton hated Burr, so he pushed the Federalists to vote for Jefferson. He figured Jefferson was the lesser of two evils.
Wow, so Hamilton really swung the election, huh?
Pretty much. That whole chaotic election had a big impact, though. It showed how messed up the Electoral College could be, led to the 12th Amendment, which made electors vote separately for president and vice president.
So it really did change things for good.
Mm-hmm.
But it also showed how much, personal grudges and political games could affect the outcome of an election.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So let's jump ahead a few decades now to another turbulent period in American history, the Civil War and the aftermath.
Reconstruction. A nation trying to heal itself, figure out what freedom and equality really meant.
And the House was right in the middle of it all.
Lincoln's assassination, that was a huge blow. He was a symbol of unity during the war. When Andrew Johnson took over, things got complicated.
He was from the South, had a different approach to dealing with the former Confederacy.
Yeah, more lenient. But the radical Republicans in Congress, they had other plans.
They were determined to dismantle the old power structures in the South, make sure freed slaves actually had rights, and hold the Confederacy accountable for what they did.
Big goals. And they ran into a wall with Johnson. He saw it as Congress overstepping its boundaries.
So basically a power struggle between the president and Congress.
Right. Two different visions for the future of the nation, and the House was caught in the crossfire.
And then things escalated, right, to the point of impeachment.
Yeah, Johnson kept challenging Congress, tried to undermine their efforts to rebuild the South. In 1868, the House decided to impeach him.
Only the second time a president faced that kind of charge.
The whole country was watching. The Senate had to decide whether to remove Johnson from office.
Talk about pressure. What was the final verdict?
Acquitted. By just one vote. A lot of senators thought he'd messed up, but they were worried about setting a precedent. What if they removed a president just because of political disagreements?
It's a really close call.
Yeah.
But even though it didn't work, Johnson's impeachment shows how far the House is willing to go to keep the president in check.
To uphold the Constitution, even when it gets tough.
Yeah. It's a powerful reminder that no one, not even the president, is above the law.
That's the beauty of checks and balances.
You know, it's amazing to think about how the House has made it through all these, crazy times.
Oh, absolutely. From those intense political showdowns to, full-blown national crises.
Yeah, and every time it comes out stronger on the other side.
Adapting and evolving right alongside the nation.
It's easy to focus on the drama and the conflicts, but we can't forget about everything the House has accomplished.
All the laws they've passed, policies put into action, it affects us every day.
Exactly. From clean air and water to safe food and medicine.
The House has a hand in all of it.
And it all starts with the people, the folks who choose to represent their communities, bringing all those different viewpoints to the table. It makes you wonder, how does someone go from being a regular person to a member of Congress? What's that path look like?
Well, the qualifications aren't as complicated as you might think. Got to be at least 25 years old, a U.S. citizen for at least 7 years, and live in the state you want to represent.
So basically, anyone who's passionate about serving their community could run for office.
That's the idea behind a representative democracy.
Of course, winning an election takes more than just checking boxes. It takes a lot of hard work, dedication.
Definitely. A strong message, the ability to connect with people.
And once they're elected, they've got a tough job ahead of them. Meetings, debates, fighting for their constituents.
Tackling those big, complex issues that affect everyone.
One thing that always fascinates me is the role of committees. They seem to have a lot of power in shaping laws.
Oh, they're essential. Each committee focuses on a specific area. You've got committees for agriculture, education, healthcare, national security, you name it. They hold hearings, talk to experts, and then draft the bills to address those specific issues.
So it's like a bunch of mini legislatures all working at the same time.
Exactly. Make sure everything is thoroughly examined from all angles.
And the House itself, it's changed so much over time, becoming more diverse, which is a good thing.
Reflecting the changing demographics of the country.
We see more women, more minorities, people from all walks of life in Congress now.
That's crucial for making sure everyone feels represented, that our laws actually work for everyone.
Of course, there's always room for improvement. Still work to be done to make the House even more inclusive.
To bridge the gaps between parties and make sure the whole process is transparent.
It's a good reminder that democracy isn't a spectator sport. We all have to participate, stay engaged, and hold our elected officials accountable.
You got it.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, from the House's dramatic beginnings to its role in shaping the nation.
It's a story full of twists and turns, that's for sure.
It's been a fascinating deep dive into this complex, sometimes unpredictable institution.
Absolutely.
Hopefully you've come away with a new appreciation for the U.S. House of Representatives. It's a reminder that democracy is a work in progress, always evolving, always facing new challenges.
And overcoming them.
If you want to explore this further, definitely check out Rachel A. Koestler-Grack's book, The House of Representatives, Your Government, How It Works.
Great read.
You can find a link to buy it in the show notes. And don't forget to subscribe to Mindful Moments. Nourish your mind on the go for more quick, insightful learning. That's all for today, but we'll be back soon with another deep dive. Until then, stay curious.